Hi folks, we're back with Reedy's Geometry, and this is section 1-2, and we're talking about what we call field properties. These are just properties that numbers or quantities have, things that are true about them, and I'm going to walk you through this information. This stuff will be found on your note card for this section. All right, the first property to talk about is what we call closure, and closure just means that if you take two numbers that are the same type of number, a natural number or an integer or a real number or whatever kind of number, you add them, you'll always get an answer that is also that same kind of number. All right, so if A and B are integers and you add them, you'll get an integer. And if a set of numbers has that property, it's called closure, in this case with respect to addition. There's also closure with respect to multiplication and whatever other operations you can do. But closure just means when you do something to two numbers that are of one kind, the answer you get is that same kind as what you started with. All right? Now, associative. Associative property, basically it's called associative because it means the numbers can associate with whoever they want to. But really, it's doing the operations in a certain order. If I have A plus B plus C, and I want to do A plus B first and then add C to that, I put the parentheses. The associative property with respect to addition says that it doesn't matter if you put the parentheses first and do A plus B and then add C, or if you add B plus C and then add A. You'll get the same answer either way. That's the associative property with respect to addition. There's also one for multiplication. I can take A times B and then take that times C, or I can take B times C first and multiply that by A. I'll get the same answer either way. So that's associative. Now there's commutative. Commute like you drive back and forth. That same kind of word is used here. And if I take A plus B in that order, that is the same as B plus A. One thing plus a second thing is the same thing as the second thing plus the first thing. Doesn't matter the order that they are in, it's the same answer. The same is true for multiplication. One number times a second number is the same as the second number times the first number. All right, that's commutative property of addition and multiplication. Let's talk about inverse. Inverse here is the property numbers have that when you take any number and add its opposite to it, you will always get 0. An inverse is a number that you have to add to another number to get 0 as an answer. So if I take any number and add to it its opposite and get 0, then that set of numbers has an inverse with respect to addition. The same is true of multiplication, only the inverse value is not 0, it's 1. So when I take any number, what do I have to multiply it to get 1? Well, 1 over that number. That is a multiplication inverse. So there's an additive or addition inverse, and there's a multiplicative or a multiplication inverse. Now identity. Identity is what I have to add to a number to get that number back as an answer. All right, and an additive identity or an addition identity is 0 because no matter what number I take, if I add 0 to it, I get that number as an answer. The multiplication identity is 1 because any number times 1 gives that number back. So these are the field properties. All right, here are some examples with Geometry Section 1-2 field properties. And they'll give you some sort of equation or something and say what property does this show, okay? And so I'm going to do number 5 from your worksheet. Number 5 says 3 plus negative 5 equals a rational number. Well, 3 is a rational number, and negative 5 is a rational number. Rational simply means it can be written as a fraction. So you can write 3 as 3 over 1. It's a fraction. Negative 5 is kind of a fraction. It's negative 5 over 1. And if you get a rational number or fractional number as an answer, then that's closure. Closure means when you add two numbers of a certain type and get an answer that's the same type, that's closure. So I'm going to write closure. That's all I have to put for my answer. All right, now number 6 on your worksheet. In parentheses, -3 plus 4 plus -2 is the same as or is equal to -3 plus parentheses 4 plus -2. I noticed the order of the numbers did not change. What changed from both sides of the equal sign? The parentheses moved. Here it's around the first two things, and here it's around the second two things. These numbers can associate with any number they want, and you still get the same answer. So this is associative property of addition. Whenever the parentheses move from one side of the equal sign to another, but the order of the numbers does not change, we're talking associative. So this is associative, and I'll abbreviate assoc prop, and I'll just put a plus because it's addition. So that's my answer, associative property of addition. All right, now number 8 on the worksheet. -5 times -1 equals or is the same as -1 times -5. What did they do from both sides of the equal sign? Well, they took the numbers and changed the order, which means commutative, and that's a multiplication. So this is going to be commutative property of multiplication. Commutative property, and I'll put an X for times. That's my answer, commutative property of multiplication. All right, now number 9 on the worksheet. -1 over 2, or -1/2, times -2 equals 1. Well, here 2 on top, there 2 on bottom. These are inverses. And what property says when you multiply inverses, you can get 1 as an answer? This is a multiplication property of inverse, okay? Or inverse, INV, multiplication. So I'll just put inverse times. Inverse property of multiplication. I can abbreviate like that. All right, number 15 is the last one I'm going to do from the worksheet. And it says 3 plus -3 equals 0. And what property says that when you take a number times its opposite, you get 0 as an answer? Well, that's an inverse, and this is addition. So this is inverse plus additive inverse or inverse property of addition. Right? Field properties.